York Times wrote this great article about people who confess to crimes that they have not committed, okay? Mm-hmm. And they specifically focus on a professor from the University of Virginia School of Law, and he identified 40 people who were innocent but admitted to crimes they did not commit since 1976. Mm-hmm. Okay?
They're amazing stories because one of the interesting parts of it is that they give such rich detail about the crime they committed, except for the fact that they didn't commit it, right? So the professor was trying to figure out why. Why? How did they even know these details? And so what's the answer?
Well, let me just say this. The reason why they confess to these crimes in the first place is because of the way that they're interrogated. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these people who admit to these crimes that they did not commit is because they might have mental disabilities, and they might also be young. So they feel immense pressure from the interrogation, and they're just like, oh, let me just tell them what they want to believe and let's get over it.
About 50% of the cases involved either people with mental disability or people under the age of 18. So now cops want to wrap things up. They get somebody in there that's easily impressionable that they can manipulate, and then they get them to confess, and they go, okay, great, job well done, let's put it away. Now here's the problem. The guy who actually did it is still on the streets, let alone the fact that you locked up the wrong guy who sometimes spent 10 years in jail, 16 years in jail. But the question is, again, how did they plant the specifics that wind up convincing the jury? In some of these cases, they have DNA evidence showing that the guy did not commit the rape. He gets convicted anyway because the confession was so damn good.
Right.
So how do they do it?
During the interrogations, a lot of times the police officers will almost plant details in the person's head. So they'll listen.
It's almost like Inception.
Right. They'll listen to what the cop is telling them, and they'll remember those details, those false details, and they'll recite them while in court.
So here's how, and it's this example's in the article, how an interrogation might go. They say, all right, now we know you raped her or admitted, and they eventually get him to admit it. Mm-hmm. And then they say, all right, now how'd you do it? How'd you enter the house? He says, I kicked down the front door. They're like, did you? Or did you come in through the back? He's like, okay, I went in through the back. Right?
Unbelievable.
So then they go to the jury and go, how did he know that the person who did it went through the back door? Because the cops told him, right? And they led him in that direction. Now, it's so bad that in one example, and this is a really great example, the guy says that she was wearing a halter top when he attacked her, right? And then you're wondering, well, where did that come from? And it turns out, they say she was wearing a halter top, and so that's a part of the evidence used to convict him. They're like, wow, she's wearing. Turns out they got it wrong. She was wearing a sundress.
Right.
Okay.
The police report indicated that she was wearing a halter top, but that was not, in fact, the case. She was wearing a sundress.
So do you get it? The reason he said halter top is because that's in the police report. And the police planted that in him, saying, oh, she was wearing a halter top. But in reality, she was wearing a sundress because he didn't do it. Okay? So
this is so maddening and amazingly counterproductive.
It
like,
is.
What are you doing as a cop? What are you doing? You think you're helping the community? You're doing so much worse.
Well, now here's the flip side to this, right? Look, now in a great majority of the cases, the guy who confesses actually did do it, right? And you do have to create a certain degree of pressure because it's not like the guy comes in and is like, oh yeah, I will confess to everything. Sometimes that happens, but oftentimes it doesn't. And cops have a really hard job trying to get that confession out of them. And they also know that even if they get the confession, they won't necessarily get the conviction. And that's part of the reason that they want to confirm / plant some of what happened in that guy's testimony as he's confessing, right? Mm-hmm. Not sure testimony is the right word there, but his confession, right? So I get it. I get the reason behind it, right? And I'm sure it probably leads to a lot of great convictions. But you also at the same time have to be obviously extraordinarily careful that you don't have a mentally disabled person in there,
right?
Or you don't have an innocent person in there, and that you're railroading them and just pressuring them just to clear the case and to put a notch on your belt and move on. And you wish they had more sense, but and it's not just cops. Look, there's a lot of people with no sense in every job. Unfortunately, the job of a cop is pretty damn important.
Some of these interrogation methods, though, are way too shisty. Like, I'll give you an example that was noted in the article. Like, let's say the suspect takes a lie detector test and passes, no lies, right? Mm-hmm. The interrogators will tell the defendant, oh, no, you didn't pass the test, so what's the truth? What's really going on?
No,
what the fuck? Why? Why do you have to do that?
No, look, I'm torn on that. I don't mind the cops lying to the defendants or the accused, and they're not quite defendants yet, the people they're interrogating, right? Because you trick them into getting a confession, which they might not have normally given if they're the right guy. The problem I have with that story is, wait a minute, did the fact that he passed a lie detector test, did that not give you a clue that maybe you got the wrong guy?
Right.
Okay, that's the problem in the story. Not that cops lie. In interrogations, cops lie all the time, and there's good reason for that.
No, the lying I understand. I'm talking about that specific example. If you pass the lie detector test, yeah, that's a huge indication that you got the wrong guy.
Right.
So why are you going to lie and tell them that
it's not the end-all, be-all, but in some of these cases, they pass the lie detector test, and their DNA isn't on the scene, and they still push forward.
We want to close this case.
I got to close the case. Yeah, I got to win, and he's got to lose, right? And you know one of the excuses they used when the DNA didn't match? They're like, well, you know what? The victim was kind of a loose woman, so she might have had sex with a couple of people that night.
Disaster.
I mean, come on, how desperate and pathetic are you? So now, of course, people are looking into and challenging these confessions more than they were before. And the last part of why that's disastrous is there's probably a lot of real confessions that are now going to get thrown into question because of these shiesty cops that Anna was referring to that got these false confessions.
Right.
Now people are wondering, Jesus, I don't know, can we even trust confessions? So that creates bigger problems. Please, just do your job right. You got a really important job. We need you to do it right. We put our faith and trust in you. Help us out, okay? And I know most cops do, but you got to help police the ones, ironically, that don't.
You know, and this is another good reason why you shouldn't be for the death penalty. I mean, think about the people who will confess to something like murder and then be sentenced to execution.
Not having the conversation. Stopped having it a couple of years ago. Okay. No, and by the way, are there wrong confessions on death row? Of course there are. Of course.